Well, having our discussion for the Justice for Delu, we have in studio Magwetu Pitwe, who is the mother of Delu, Nabil Norbai, who is a legal expert, and Wilfred Gasagu, who is MPD spokesperson. A very warm welcome to ANN7, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Well, my first question would be to you, Magwetu. Well, let's go first. After losing Delu, what communication was there given to you from the EMPD officers?
Not much communication was given to me. They came on the day of the burial, after the burial, and they made all sorts of promises, keeping us in the loop, you know, helping us financially in terms of the funeral expenses, and none of those promises were kept.
Well, Mr. Wilfred, let's go to you. What is the general procedures that's actually followed by the EMPD in a case such as this that is so sensitive?
We have two ways in which we deal with such cases. Normally, we'll have serious cases and not so serious cases. Not so serious cases, or what we would refer to as minor cases, would be where we'll have what's called informal kind of a disciplinary hearing. Now, in this particular case, it is formal, and the matter was very serious. Hence, we had, as a presiding officer in the disciplinary hearing, a guy from a person from Labour, our HR, and then the said incident happened on the 25th, I think, of June in 2015. And then we commenced the disciplinary hearing around April in 2016. The case was finalized in October. And the guy was fined, the officer was found guilty of reckless and negligent driving, and he was dismissed. I don't know whether to say, fortunately or unfortunately, he appealed that decision with the bargaining council, who decided to rescind the ruling of the DC, our DC, and then he was reinstated. Now, whenever such anything happens which the IPD is aware of, they investigate the matter and then make recommendations. Now, they make two kinds of recommendations. It's either positive or negative. That's how they refer to it. This one was negative. In other words, the person had to be charged. Hence, we followed to those processes. And hence, we came to the conclusion that he was reckless and negligent, found guilty and dismissed. Now, once the bargaining council has decided that they get rid of that ruling and the guy is reinstated, there will be other avenues that will be followed. And I want to think there are what's called processes underway by the EMPD to see if they can sort of appeal the decision so that justice is seen by the mother or the family.
Magwetu, just to ask you, where did you hear about the officer actually being back at work and returning to work? And was there anything communicated to you in regards to his disciplinary hearing, or where the investigations is as far to what happened to your daughter?
Here's another thing that's making me unhappy with this whole process. I'm the one that continuously have to, I have to call them and ask them for feedback. They never make the initiative and contact me. When I did find out about this person being reinstated was when I called the iPad, and that's when, in fact, I was told in passing that, oh, by the way, he has been reinstated. They never opened the lines of communication, and I'm always the one following up with them, you know. They've never given me feedback. Like I said, I'm always continuously calling them. And yeah, I feel like I'm being disrespected.
Mr. Nabil, your views on this. So how do you think EMPD could have actually done something differently to communicate, or should they have done something differently?
As far as I'm concerned, with regards to, as my colleague has mentioned, with regards to IPID normally makes or gives sort of a directive in terms of what needs to be done. And as I understand it, in this particular case, a directive that a disciplinary inquiry be conducted, and that's exactly as I've understand it. But one of the regulations in terms of IPID is that the EMPD, or the party that has been given the directive by the IPID or the directorate, needs to continuously give updates as well as quarterly reports or biannually reports in terms of the outcomes or the process in terms of what is happening currently. That's very, very important. And as far as I understand it, none of that has been done. So there hasn't been any progress reports given. We do understand we're at the point now where the particular officer in question is back at work. He's been reinstated. And as my colleague has mentioned, I think not enough is being done by the EMPD to actually follow the processes. It's now a labor dispute. There needs to be more done to overrule the decision of the bargaining council. As we well understand, the bargaining council decision is not final. The avenues of labor court are still available. And if this is seen in a serious light, I mean, there's been one death and one injury in this particular incident, and if it's seen and taken seriously enough, I think the parties will ensure that they pursue the correct processes available to them to take this particular matter on review so that a labor court judge could give a final adjudication on this particular matter.
Alfred, what is your views on this or your comments?
Yeah, you see, I'm concerned that Mem here says we were not communicating, we're not keeping in the loop as far as the case is concerned. Now, what is important is that if my office doesn't know as a media and PR section or unit, I wouldn't be able to do that. Now, my question is, who was the lady calling to find out as to what the status of the case is or of the matter is? That's a problem. If that person did not communicate that information to me, there was no way in which I could be able to do it to her. And I would like to apologize on that, in that regard.
And as to the NPA investigation, why has it taken 2 years to actually get to this point of the situation?
You see, we as the EMPD, we did what we had to do. And it is now effectively out of our hands. I've just heard that the docket now is with the NPA, and we hopefully think that something will come out of it, which outcome will make it a satisfactory outcome for the mother.
Okay, Mrs. Mahwetu, let me ask you, what would you have liked to have come from EMPD side involving the investigations and how far they are in the investigations, and also as to communicating to you that the police officer is back at work? What would you have liked to see happen?
The main reason I'm doing this whole thing is I want justice to prevail. He took someone's life, and my daughter's life to be exact, and he needs to be punished for it, you know. I feel like because he is one of their own, he is being protected. Him being reinstated really, really broke me, because I feel like he got a slap in the hand, and it's what are we saying? What is the organization saying as a whole to the public, you know?
Yeah. Well, Alfred, in regards to what she's saying, is the police officer being protected, and what was his explanation as to what occurred that day?
Look, the fact that he was found guilty by the EMPD and dismissed, it is evident that we did our part. Now, the other thing that we must be aware of is that although he's back on duty, he's debarred from being behind the wheel until such time all the processes that are being followed are finalized. And hopefully something will come out which will make the mother, you know.
Does it give you some
satisfied.
comfort knowing that the officer is not allowed behind the wheel again?
No. Still, he's living a normal life. He's going to work, coming back home, eating, sleeping, watching TV. He's leading a normal life, whereas my life, he changed my life, you know. And I feel that's not fair. Something has to be done.
Well, Nabil, let me come to you. What is your opinion on what the family can do in the situation further and taking the case further? What is your opinion?
Unfortunately, with regards to the current criminal charges that have been laid against the officer, as I understand, as my colleague has just mentioned, is in the process of now moving forward. I wouldn't say finalized because these processes do take quite a bit of time. It's a matter of sitting and waiting. with regards to the criminal procedure and the courts to take its course with regards to trying to determine whether this particular officer is guilty or not for culpable homicide, possibly culpable homicide. I'm not 100% sure of the charges against him. So there will be a time and place where the mother of Delu would be called as a witness in this particular matter to come and testify. But until then, I think it's a matter of sitting around and waiting from the criminal perspective. In terms of moving forward from a civil perspective, there is a possibility, there is definitely a possibility that the mum could actually proceed with legal action against the Minister of Police of the state in this particular matter. There seems to be some sort of damages, and I think damages could be quantified with regards to the entire situation as it stands and the future as well moving forward. There is a possibility that needs to be explored by the mum. I do understand, and I truly believe that the EMPD have done what they needed to do in terms of the internal procedures. And we need to understand that internal procedures are not for anybody else to interfere. It is not public information at that particular point in time when these proceedings are in the process of being conducted. As far as I understand it, I think they've done what they needed to do, but I also believe that there's more that can be done. The decision of the Bargaining Council as it stands now is not a final decision. This is something that can be taken further, and I think most probably or possibly a different outcome could be reached should this matter be adjudicated now in the Labour Court, for instance, if this particular matter is taken on review. Whether the matter has been taken on review or not is a question that my colleague or his representatives could possibly answer, because there are time limits in that particular matter as well. And it basically boils down to a waiting game, and that's what we need to do. I think IPID has made the recommendation, EMPD has done what they needed to do, but I think all parties involved need to be a little bit more proactive in terms of their approach with regards to what is currently happening.
And Mahwetu, let's go back to the funeral. You said that there were promises made to you by EMPD that the funeral cost would be paid. Why do you think this wasn't paid, or what impact did this have for you actually waiting for them to give you further communication on this matter?
I really don't know why nothing has come out of it. I think they just did what they had to do at that point, you know, to ease the situation. It would have made a big difference in our lives, you know, because like I said, this was sudden for all of us. It was unexpected. So it made it that much harder for us to, because I wasn't working at that point even when it happened, it made it that much harder for us to continue with the funeral arrangements and so forth.
And the EMPD officer, did he actually communicate with you or actually give an apology as to?
That's another thing that's making me angry, is up to so far, it's almost 2 years, next month in June, it's going to be 2 years, and he has made no form of communication. I feel like he's not acknowledging what he's done. I don't know. He hasn't made contact in any way, and he's showing no remorse. This is what he's telling me, that he's showing no remorse for what he did.
Well, Alfred, in regards to the promises that were made to Mahwetu, what can you do to go investigate in the office as to the promises made, and as well as the communication gap that there was? Will there be any further investigation from your side, just so that we can make sure there is communication in regards to these very sensitive cases? I mean, this is a mother who lost a child.
I understand. Now that I'm aware of it, I will certainly make sure that the communication lines are kept open, and also go find out as to the kind of promises that were given to the mother, and as to who gave the what I know is that our current chief of police, then he was still a deputy chief of police, he did go to the family to offer condolences and so on. Mm-hmm. And then that I will investigate and make sure that we keep her abreast of things.
And just before we stop the whole conversation, is there something else that you would like to say to Mahwetu in regards to what happened to her child?
You know, as an officer and other officers, we are parents, we are uncles and so on and so on. And this was a very sad thing to happen. To lose a loved one, it's not a very easy thing. And it hit us very, very badly. And I'm happy that my colleague here has made the mother aware that whilst we're waiting for these other processes to unfold, he has mentioned something very important, that the other legal recourse avenues that the mother can follow in the meantime.
And your final comments on the situation, what would you like to see happen further?
Definitely moving forward, I think it's very important that it is a sad situation, first of all, and we do offer our condolences. The situation is indeed one that nobody should have to go through at any particular point in time in their life. In terms of moving forward, what I would like to see is more open correspondence between the parties. Obviously, the mother needs to know of her recourse, which is available to her, and should make a decision now that she is not as emotional as she was at the time of incident, if she wants to exercise those particular options. But I think parties need to be more proactive towards each other so they understand exactly where they are in this particular situation. I think that's going to make it easier, and I think that's going to give the mom the closure that she's actually seeking in terms of this entire process, to find out what the status is of this particular individual that was involved in this particular incident. So it's a matter of being open line communication, and maybe one point of contact between EMPD and the mom, which makes it easier. It avoids her having to phone in and speak to 10 different people. I think that would give us some sort of comfort in terms of moving forward, and I think that would hopefully move the process a little bit more quicker in terms of bringing it to a finalization, so we have a final outcome in terms of what the status of the EMPD officer is. And I think that's where we're going to leave it.
Alfred, can we have a commitment perhaps from your side that there will be more open lines of communication with the mother in regards to what happens?
Definitely. Speaking to the head of PR and media liaison and PR, and I'm going to make sure that that takes place.
That was our discussion on what happened to poor Delu that day. We had her mother, Magwetu Pitwe, and Nabil Norbai, who's the legal expert, Wilfred Kassaach, EMPD spokesperson, joining us in studio.